The Trumpet Daily is presented by Stephen Flurry. The program analyzes world news and history from a distinct perspective and compares current events to prophecies found in the Bible. The program also offers free educational publications, including the Trumpet News Magazine and books and booklets. The Trumpet Daily is produced at the Philadelphia Church of God's home campus in Edmond, Oklahoma, and its sister campus in Edstone, England. More information is available at thetrumpet.com.
The Trumpet Daily program begins right now.
Today's world news, what it means, where it's taking us.
I bring you the one and only possible message of world peace.
This is a message of hope, tremendous hope. And he said unto me, you must prophesy again.
The Trumpet Daily program begins right now.
Three out-of-control wildfires are spreading all across LA County, fueled by life-threatening and destructive winds up to 100 miles an hour. The flames tearing through over 4,000 acres already.
And despite the heroic efforts of all the firefighters there, all three of those fires 0% contained at this point.
County officials calling this the worst-case scenario, with crews spread extremely thin, particularly in inland areas like Pasadena, where new fires flared up.
Within 15 minutes, the smoke was coming down. The neighborhood was filling with ash and smoke.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Sorry, bro. Gotta get out of here.
We were told over 90 patients are being transported to the different facilities. But you can see here, it's such a chaotic scene right now.
Another problem was water pressure. In the Palisades, many firefighters complained that they didn't have any more water pressure.
Our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this, there's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants.
But they don't have the resources to essentially put out all of these small fires, obviously. He says so far all of these blue hydrants aren't good, and they haven't been able to get water from them.
It literally looks like a nuke went off. We are witnessing the costliest fire disaster in U.S. history by a very wide margin.
The damage in Southern California is being described as unimaginable.
The two biggest wildfires ravaging the Los Angeles area have killed at least 10 people and burned more than 10,000 buildings,
making them the first and second most destructive fires in Southern California history.
Mars would be more habitable than this place right now, so it's crazy. There's absolutely nothing.
It's apocalyptic. It's like someone's dropped a bomb. There's cars burnt out. There's ash everywhere. We were thinking it was going to be bad, but I think we both had no idea how bad it was.
It's all burned down. Everything, my kids' school, our community, our neighbors' houses, everything is just burned down. Everything is gone. We have just whatever we're wearing. We're wearing the same thing for the last 2 days.
Well, you're seeing this moments after I saw it. The clouds just cleared, and I can tell you this is the most devastating event that I've seen. I've seen the earthquakes, all the fires here over the last 30 or 40 years, and we've never seen anything like this. This is Pacific Palisades, and the fire went through here, and it just took out thousands of homes all the way down to the shoreline. I mean, to describe it, really, it looks like a war zone.
Overnight, parts of the Northeast drenched by heavy rain and hail after deadly storms pounded the South and Midwest, as dozens of tornadoes ripped through 7 states, killing at least 40 people, uprooting trees and dismantling homes and businesses.
Oh my God.
The strongest confirmed twister, a powerful EF4 in Jackson County, Arkansas. This monster funnel cloud seen in Mississippi, as frightening scenes broke out across the state.
I was holding my wife to my chest and just watching everything disappear and watching everything get ripped down away from me.
And in neighboring Alabama, one possible tornado strong enough to toss a bus onto a high school. Farther west, high winds are still wreaking havoc. As wildfires rage across Texas and Oklahoma, the frightening flames and high winds being blamed for at least 4 deaths. And a Kansas dust storm causes highway pileup where 8 people died.
I have vehicles crashing behind me. This is extremely volatile, very hazardous situation.
Back in Mississippi, resilience rising above the rubble as a recovery begins.
We come on the air tonight from Texas's hill country. Just below us is the Guadalupe River, and you can see the destruction it carved out in parts of central Texas. Down there is where the river stands tonight, and we wanted to show you how high it rose, more than 30 feet, even higher from where we are broadcasting live tonight, wiping out everything in its way. And today we were with rescuers digging into mangled cars, caked in mud along riverbanks, crews setting out on airboats and diving into the river, all trying to find signs of life. Survivors trapped, airlifted from their homes to safety. You see it right here. The destruction immense. You can see bridges wiped out completely. And new videos showing the quick rise of the nearby Llano River. This in under an hour. Look at that water rise. Camp Mystic grieving the loss, and this is hard to say, of 27 campers and counselors. You can see the heartbreaking images, the high water line inside the cabins where children slept. Muddied mattresses, stuffed animals and trunks all left behind. With so many holding out hope, more will be found alive.
People need to know today will be a hard day. It will be a hard day.
Those missing campers from Camp Mystic that we've been focusing on for several days now, ever since those floodwaters started to rise early Friday morning, and nearly none of them evacuated out, despite there being National Weather Service warnings issued on Thursday afternoon about flooding concerns.
When you're talking about 26 feet of water in 45 minutes, there is simply no way to prepare for that. It is a tragedy, and those politicizing it ought to be ashamed of themselves.
And Joe, again, we cannot tame Mother Nature at all.
Just a really devastating situation for a lot of families and the community. The governor also issuing a disaster declaration for over a dozen counties.
They're still pulling people out of the river, and we don't even know to the extent of who we know that has lost their lives.
My friend Nene was just so funny. I've been scrolling through videos and pictures on my mom's phone and watching it over and over again. Her dancing when she's excited.
Rockland of Jamaica is bracing for catastrophic impacts. Hurricane Melissa strengthening to a powerful Category 5 hurricane and expected to make landfall in Jamaica in the coming hours.
That make it the strongest storm ever to make a direct hit on Jamaica. That's quite literally never happened before.
Something you never want to see. Category 5 Hurricane Melissa now,
with sustained winds of 175 miles per hour.
with the flood emergency in the Pacific Northwest. In the Seattle area, rain totals are approaching 1.5 feet. It's been coming down since Sunday.
And rivers are still rising tonight, some approaching historic levels. The governor of Washington state says as many as 100,000 people could be forced to scramble for safety, and there is still the potential for catastrophic loss of life.
Extreme weather events are costly, and so far this year, they've been more costly than ever. A database run by the nonprofit group Climate Central found 14 extreme weather disasters, including the most costly of them, the California wildfires, occurred from January to June. Price tag more than $100 billion in damages.
Within days of taking office, I signed a historic executive order to combat the vile scourge of anti-Semitism, as you know. It's the strongest executive order of its kind ever signed.
2 Israeli diplomats killed in Washington, D.C. after a shooter opens fire outside the Capitol Jewish Museum.
Some are already calling a brazen act of terrorism.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Was it simply a matter of time that the violent anti-Semitic rhetoric that we have seen festering in this country over the last 2 years escalated to murder?
Yeah, absolutely.
We are witnessing the terrible price of anti-Semitism and wild incitement against Israel. The blood libels against Israel are costing blood and must be combated to the bitter end.
The FBI now calling today's attack on the Pearl Street Mall in Boulder a, quote, targeted terror attack.
Police say 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Soliman from El Paso set people on fire with that makeshift flamethrower.
Every one of the victims that I could tell that I saw had skin basically melted or hanging from their legs.
Thankfully, it all ended as police arrived.
And then when they got him in the vehicle, he shouted "Free Palestine."
This has increased fears among the Jewish community. The NYPD, for instance, is increasing security around New York City's religious sites.
You see all these hate crimes that are going on around the country, things that are happening to Jews all around the country.
And then we also saw the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania, the governor's mansion firebombed with a radical that wanted to murder him and his entire family.
This came on the heels, by the way, of what I believe really is a blood libel, where you had the media erroneously reporting that the Israelis were shooting on innocent civilians at a humanitarian checkpoint to get food. And so if you have false reporting that makes it seem as though the Israelis are the ones shooting on innocent people, of course, you should expect to have an incitement of violence when you can see these protests across the country from college campuses and abroad. So it's a tinderbox.
I've always said that we will recognize a Palestinian state as a contribution to a proper peace process at the moment of maximum impact for the two-state solution. The UK will recognize the state of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza.
Okay, there's just a massive amount of fire coming to Tel Aviv right now. Okay. Guys, come on, everyone move. Everyone move now.
Trey, I mean, it's unbelievable to see what we're seeing going on in the skies above Tel Aviv right now.
Oh my God. C'est bon.
هذا نزل علينا تعال There's currently a large-scale ballistic missile attack that is targeting the northern part of Israel. The entirety of this country received alerts to head to shelters. The Iranians have now launched a fifth wave over the past 24 hours, targeting different parts of Israel.
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free!
Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death to the IDF!
Death, death to the IDF. Death, death to the IDF. Death, death to the IDF. Death, death to the IDF.
When you see scenes like in Birmingham, when you see these pro-Palestine marches, when you see the states crumbling to the demands of these people, what do you see happening next?
There was a lot of signs were hanging around the Villa Park. It says, if you see a Zionist, call us, we'll take care of him. It's all over again.
Every match that the barbaric Israeli establishment or their teams are at, we will be at.
This is the only country where we were told that it's unsafe for us to stay in the city where we were playing a match. This is the only country where we were told that to be safe we should be at the stadium close to 5 hours beforehand, with our players having to lie down on the ground.
Yesterday's murder of Jews celebrating Yom Kippur at a synagogue in Manchester by a vile man of Syrian descent has been rightly condemned by many Brits as the inevitable culmination of months, in fact 2 years, of desperately weak leadership by Britain's Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Almost every weekend, large pro-Palestinian marches, frequently involving calls such as death to the IDF and all Zionists are terrorists, have fueled the hatred and incited this sort of violence.
We have breaking news of a major situation unfolding at Bondi Beach this evening.
Police say the shooting was a targeted terrorist attack on a Jewish celebration.
It is Australia's worst mass shooting in nearly 30 years, after 15 people died, including a 10-year-old girl.
People running, but from what?
These are confronting scenes in a country that prides itself on its low rates of violent crime.
Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
Hanukkah is the story of the survival of the Jewish religion. And yet, on the first day of this festival, people were again murdered just because they were Jews.
I think it is really worrying to see that the Republican movement has been hijacked by MAGA isolationists who are racist, selfish, and have this narrow-minded view of the world where clearly they don't think America should be the leader of the free world.
Look at what's happened with some of those on, the far left and their pro-Palestinian stance, and then some on the far right that have actually moved to an anti-Israel stance.
You've got a part of MAGA that is less pro-Israel. You've got a part of MAGA that is completely anti-Israel.
And then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that? Right. And I can just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody.
The main reason I interviewed Fuentes, it's like, let's just get it out there. If you disagree, tell me how. That's fine. What's wrong with that?
Buddy, it's Führer Friday. It is Hitler Friday.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really cool. So, time to grow up.
It's not Israeli derangement syndrome. I certainly don't have it.
These characters are just being inserted into places to serve Israel. That makes Israel the master of the universe. And that's troubling. Because this is a state that has a hexagram on their flag. Okay? They're even lying about the history of the Star of David. It's a hexagram. It's a cult.
Israel, whether it realizes it or not, has made itself the villain of the world in letting this thing go on so long. They have lost support amongst their dearest friends. And even the entire Democrat Party here in the United States has turned against them, and they're losing Republicans by the day. As Trump said when he was running this time last year, not yet elected, time to wrap it up. And that's how I feel too.
You pushed the Israeli prime minister to make this deal, to get a ceasefire, to apologize to Qatar,
Can you push Bibi Netanyahu to recognize a Palestinian state?
I did. I pushed him.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing. Do you understand that?
President Trump betrayed Israel. What Mr. Trump has done here is going to plague him from the very beginning to the end of his tenure in office. And you wait and see if it doesn't happen that way, unless there's a big change.
Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz has been meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. Merz is on his first state visit since taking office at a time when relations are strained over the war in Gaza. Netanyahu said the status quo in the occupied territory would remain for now, but stressed what he called opportunities for peace.
Not only does Germany work in the defense of Israel, but Israel, the Jewish state, 80 years after the Holocaust, works for the defense of Germany. And that is a historical change that comes at the time of great international turbulence and change. Friedrich, I think we're at the cusp of a new age, because I think that we will achieve the expansion of peace. I think that we are at a new age because I think that the possibilities of technology, with their risks, especially in AI, but with their positive benefits, are enormous in every field. I mean, from agriculture to health to transportation and I think that we are together, we can lead this and become not a secondary power, but a primary power in the advance of humanity. I look forward to our discussions, so welcome Friedrich, welcome Fred.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this point.
How will we see Europe shift their approach to this new Trump administration?
Well, we have to accept the fact that he is president, and we need to deal with a deal maker.
Well, you're asking me a question because I'm sure you didn't hear. Am I going to impose tariffs on the European Union? Absolutely.
Europe is in shock just days before the German federal elections. Recent statements by several officials of the Trump administration suggest Germany, Ukraine, and the European Union are now on their own as Trump suddenly recites Vladimir Putin's talking points. The war in Ukraine, the economic crisis, and a series of attacks by asylum seekers are unsettling many German voters. Now, the country's most important ally is turning its back. The U.S. is negotiating directly with Russia, bypassing the Europeans. America is no longer a warrant of safety in the region. At the same time, representatives of the Trump administration are interfering in the electoral process by openly endorsing the partially far-right AfD. To the point we ask Trump and Putin, a new alliance to weaken Europe?
Happening today, French President Emmanuel Macron is holding an emergency summit to discuss President Trump.
They say it's not an emergency meeting, but it certainly is hasty and impromptu.
They're going to tackle how to respond to the fast-moving pace of the Trump administration, something that came as a shock to many of these European leaders.
Well, Germany's election is fast approaching, with polls indicating that Sunday's vote is likely to shift the country to the right. Despite voter concerns about a sluggish economy, the election's been dominated by Germany's migration policies, security, the war in Ukraine, and outside interference.
This election was supposed to be about the economy. Then Elon Musk got involved, endorsing the far-right Alternative for Germany party, or AfD.
Only AfD can save Germany.
He then appeared at a campaign event encouraging Germans to let go of the past.
Children should not be guilty of the sins of their parents, or even let alone their parents, their great-grandparents maybe.
That gave the anti-immigration party exposure they've never had before.
They want change. Conservative leader Friedrich Merz is set to become the country's next chancellor after a record number of Germans cast their ballots in the highest turnout since reunification. Surging to second place, the alternative far right, the strongest finish for the party since World War II. Issues at the forefront: immigration, the economy, and the United States, and stressing a need for German independence from America.
My absolute priority will be to strengthen Europe as quickly as possible, so that step by step, we can really achieve independence from the United States.
There is this sense of urgency for Europeans.
Let's be honest, now we can't rule out the possibility that America might say no to Europe on issues that threaten it. Many leaders have talked about Europe that needs its own military, an army of Europe.
Why should America carry the lion's share of the burden from now until Lord knows when for Europe when Europe has the money to defend itself?
Well, I don't think we should carry the burden.
Increasing your commitment to your own security is a down payment for the future. A down payment, as you said, Mr. Secretary, of peace through strength.
But I think that we should expect, and the president certainly expects, Europe to play the leading role here.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance, Vice President, said that the Europeans were freeloading. Do you agree with that assessment?
Do you really want me to answer? Yeah, I think they've been freeloading.
Trump has a point, and as had already Joe Biden and others before that the Europeans need to ramp up their security measures, and we need to do more without a question.
You've had some people saying here, like, this is a fresh turning point. You know, in Germany, there's this word Zeitenwende people talk about a lot, that which means turning point. Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor, coined it in early 2022, just soon after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. A lot of people here have been saying this is a second turning point, this of a historical level, where the US has sort of signaled it might be prepared, not just militarily, but culturally, politically, kind of spiritually, to pull away from Europe.
Danger is moving towards us at full speed. We must not look the other way. It is time to shift to a wartime mindset.
We would never have anticipated this.
Andrew, absolutely, completely. You know, from my perspective, this is like the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's like 9/11. It is just a complete game changer in everything.
We are in an era of rearmament.
Ursula von der Leyen has previously said that the role of the Europeans in the world for the next 50 years is likely to be defined by the choices made during the next 5.
I have outlined in this letter to the leaders the Rearm Europe plan. This set of proposals focuses on how to use all the financial levers at our disposal in order to help member states to quickly and significantly increase expenditures in defense capabilities.
I mean, this feels like a whatever-it-takes moment for Germany.
Well, that's right. I mean, extraordinary moves by Friedrich Merz. He's breaking, pardon the pun, with, years of understood fiscal behaviour in Germany. I mean, this debt break that we're talking about survived the pandemic, it survived other crises, and yet Donald Trump has now broken that break effectively for Germany, in a sign of just how serious Germany sees the moment that we're in and the need to really revamp their economy in terms of spending on infrastructure. You can see the reaction in the market on that front today, and really helping take the lead on defence.
It's really worth underlining just how massive this announcement is.
Deutsche Bank's analysts saying this is the biggest fiscal change for Germany since reunification.
The US is seemingly letting down countries that are fighting for their lives to defend their freedom, and the Germans no longer care about debt. Welcome to a completely new reality.
President Trump talked about it in his first administration. He talked about it in the campaign trail. He's talked about it since November, is the need for Europeans to fund their own defense. All of a sudden, voila, this week, after 25 years of baiting and cajoling, President Trump achieved what 5 other presidents couldn't achieve. The Europeans are going to up their defense spending. The German debt break is coming off.
What took you so long? Got a big GDP, all of you combined. Come on. And reports today that Europe is considering withholding intel from the United States for the first time in modern history.
What's happened the last couple of weeks
is really staggering. The Europeans committing to a package of 800 billion defense spending. The Germans now, potentially up to $500 billion extra in defense spending. And then, of course, you had Keir Starmer here, the British Prime Minister, and others, all committing to much higher defense spending.
For the first time in 84 years, since 1941, you have a U.S. government which is not allied with Europe. It is not allied with Canada. And in that circumstance, Canada, Europe, and other countries look at each other and say, how do we build up these capabilities without necessarily going through Washington?
I suppose it always comes down to this very unpleasant question as to whether Europe still views the United States as a reliable ally. And in that context, I often hear one thing said privately, one thing said publicly.
And I think a lot of my colleagues in the alliance and in Europe by and large have accepted the realities that the transatlantic relationship is changing.
Germany's incoming Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, says he no longer believes US security commitments to Europe can be taken for granted. And that has led to doubts about the future of the US nuclear umbrella for Germany. That in turn has reignited a debate in Germany and beyond about rethinking Europe's nuclear setup.
With the US now increasingly looking like an unreliable partner, France is pushing for an idea that until recently seemed unthinkable: providing the European Union with nuclear deterrence independent from the US.
We have to be prepared for the fact that Donald Trump will no longer unconditionally honor the NATO treaty's promise of mutual assistance. That's why I think Europeans really now have to make a big effort to at least be in the position to defend the European continent on their own.
Because the days we are living through are days which will define the history of Europe and of the European Union. This is a once-in-a-generation moment. We face a clear and present danger seen by none of us in our lifetimes. More than ever, Europe must prepare for the worst to prevent the worst. The possibility of military aggression against us. Such preparation is the only way to deter the worst. Geopolitical reality is changing before our eyes. More than ever, we must stand on our 2 feet, take charge of our own defense and of deterrence.
On defense, people absolutely agree. I mean, there are people in Europe that are thanking the US for the so-called Germany Sputnik moment, for the realization by Germany that they've got to take more responsibility for their defense. And that opens up not just defense spending, but infrastructure spending for the one country that has massive fiscal space.
My message to you today is that we have everything we need to protect our people and our prosperity. We have the largest single market in the world. We have the strength to negotiate. We have the power to push back.
There's really a sense right now that you're seeing more and more of a gaping divide. I'm using the word gaping because I really want to emphasize it's almost widening by the day in Washington's approach to these so-called peace negotiations that the US-led peace process in Ukraine and the European approach.
Doug, it seems that since that Oval Office dust-up, we've had the United States and Europe on separate wavelengths, and they rarely meet, even when it comes to security guarantees.
There's nothing that has been indicated so far in the U.S. proposal to give the Europeans a sort of comfort zone that there is going to be security guarantees.
They have to do it, and they know they have to do it, and not only because President Trump says it's fair to equalize spending with the United States. That's one reason to do it, but also because there is the ongoing threat of the Russians.
I'm convinced that this is the hour of Europe, more precisely the European Union.
Together, we decide our European future. It is time for us to not only see this request for a bigger European responsibility, but also to take it.
The reason I'm here is to make sure every country in NATO understands every shoulder has to be to the plow. Every country has to contribute at that level of 5% as a recognition of the nature of the threat. It's deterrence and peace through strength, but it can't be reliance. It cannot and will not be reliance on America in a world of a lot of threats.
The idea that we want Germany to be able to fend off Russia on their own places us in very tenuous position, does it not? Why? I have a book at home about Germany and their position as a global military power where we didn't have sway.
Right.
And they did what they wanted. I mean, it didn't work out.
Frankly, I don't put a lot of credence. I don't line that like, oh, yes, the Germans will just become Nazis again. Like, that's a weird racist critique of Germans. I don't see any reason to believe that.
This idea that we are on the precipice of another Holocaust, like, this is not grounded in reality, and it's not healthy.
So we do need to, like, convince everybody the Fourth Reich is not rising. Settle down.
Trump has demonstrated what we all really knew about him, that he can change his mind on a dime, that he loves to jerk people around. And I think the lesson the world has to learn from all of this is he's a bully.
On Thursday, it'll be the German Chancellor's turn to be thrown into the fire as Friedrich Merz meets Donald Trump for lunch at the White House, followed by a joint press appearance. Recent Oval Office meetings with even traditional allies have proven to be unpredictable and often tense experiences.
Chancellor just won a great election, a very respected man. I just want to congratulate you, and I want to welcome you to the Oval Office.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you. We have a great mandate from the people, and part of our mandate is we're going to have a great relationship with your country. So I just want to thank you very much for being here.
Well, this is the birth certificate of Donald Trump's grandfather, born in 1869. We owe the Americans a lot. We will never forget about that. I think this is a very good basis for close cooperation between America and Germany.
Is Germany doing enough on defense?
The Chancellor wants to...
Is Germany doing enough on defense?
Wants to spend 3.5. Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't discussed it very much. I know that you're spending more money on defense now, and quite a bit more money, and that's a positive thing. I'm not sure that General MacArthur would have said it's positive, you know. He wouldn't like it, but I sort of think it's good. You understand what I mean by that?
I understand.
He made a statement, never let Germany rearm. And I said, I always think about that when he says, sir, we're spending more money on defense. I say, oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing. But, you know, at least to a certain point. There'll be a point when I'll say, please don't arm anymore if you don't mind.
We will be approving spending considerably more on defense and on security. And we're not doing that to do a favor to the U.S. and its president, as some people argue. It is our firm conviction that we must do this because Russia is endangering the security and the liberty of the entire Euro-Atlantic region actively.
Chancellor Merz believes he's come up with a way for his government to better handle crises and to make key decisions faster. He wants to create Germany's first National Security Council, a committee he expects to be approved by his cabinet this week.
Unveiled in a Munich hangar, Germany's Helsing has pulled the curtain on Europa, an AI-driven combat drone built to fight and think in swarms. Promising a 2027 maiden flight, the stealthy V-tailed CA-1 aims to rewrite air power doctrine with autonomous tactics and a fraction of a fighter jet's cost. Europe's largest defence startup is betting billions that this homegrown machine will redefine the next generation of war.
NATO says it will conduct even more enhanced vigilance and ramp up its air defenses in the Baltic Sea in direct response to drone incursions into Europe this week.
Earlier this week, drone sightings shut down the NATO country's biggest airport.
Drone incursions caused temporary closures at Copenhagen and Oslo airports Monday evening. It came just days after a hacking operation led to problems at 3 European airports, including London Heathrow. On the 9th of September, around 20 Russian drones entered Poland's airspace. 4 days later, Romania too reported such a violation. Experts say regardless of whether the motive was ransom or a deliberate attack, it exposes just how fragile systems are in a digitized world.
There's been a lot of debates here in the corridors as well concerning how fit the European Union can get, how fast to get ready for any kind of Russian aggression.
Defense is a clear priority both for European Commission and for
I would say majority of member states, and things are moving quite fast. Now we need to move into what they call delivery stage, which means contracts, production, procurement, and so on and so on.
Germany should take over the leadership of NATO. That was the bombshell announcement from the US ambassador at the recent Berlin Security Conference. The position of Supreme Allied Commander Europe, or SACEUR, has always been held by a US four-star general. Now it appears the Trump administration is prepared to relinquish the role and hand it to Germany. I'm reminded of the old joke that NATO was created to keep the Russians out, the Americans in, and the Germans down. This is quite the turnaround.
It is indeed, absolutely. Germans to the front these days, and Germany to take on a bigger role and greater responsibility. That's what not only the United States, but NATO as a whole is looking to. As we all know, if NATO is going back to the primary task of collective defense, which means essentially facing up to Russia along its eastern borders, then Germany is critical. It's critical because you need Germany to provide that big land army.
A German Leopard tank being operated by Ukraine's army in the fight against Russia. A German Matador anti-tank system being used by Israel's army in Gaza. And German weapons popping up in the war in Yemen. Germany has always claimed to export arms responsibly, with strict and complicated rules. But that's changing.
I think it was long overdue that Germany changed its policy.
We are in the era of massive rearmament.
The German arms industry is booming, and weapons are ending up in countries all over the world. Since the war in Ukraine, there's been a lot of talk about Germany getting ready to defend itself.
Faced with growing Russian threats and an unreliable US partner under the Trump administration, Germany has agreed to a new military plan to boost its numbers. The coalition government will focus on voluntary service by making it more attractive to young people.
We want to inspire as many young people as possible to serve their country. If voluntary participation ultimately proves insufficient, there will also need to be a mandatory obligation.
Now, the move comes amid a broader modernization drive backed by major new investment.
We must strengthen our ability to deter and defend, now, decisively and without hesitation, because no one else will do it for us. That's why we are consistently aligning the Bundeswehr with national and alliance defence. That's why we're working hard to further improve its equipment and infrastructure. And last but not least, that's why we need the new military service.
The European Commission is set to propose an emergency system to speed up the cross-border movement of troops and equipment. Military operators would be given priority access to railways and roads during a crisis and be allowed to cut through red tape. This would allow a much faster reaction than is currently possible.
German arms maker Rheinmetall has got to work on an artillery ammunition factory in Lithuania, which it hopes will soon produce tens of thousands of projectiles per year. They're set to go into operation in the second half of 2026.
Scarred by their country's Nazi past, Germans embraced pacifism after the Cold War. Defense spending collapsed to the point some soldiers were buying their own gear. But Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, combined with persistent pressure from President Donald Trump for Europe to shoulder more of its own defense, transformed the landscape. Today, Germany is racing to rearm.
We know the hotspots, we know the gaps, we know the stakes, and we are now ready to act.
Well, the US's long-awaited national security strategy has been published, and it reveals the Trump White House's vision of America's future in the world. This includes a focus on Latin American relations and immigration, and it questions its future relationship with Europe.
Now, in a first reaction, Johann Wadefuhl, the German foreign minister, said that Germany doesn't need any outside advice. Is this the end of the traditionally good transatlantic relationship?
Well, this document tears that up.
He is retreating from the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, at least in practice, and then narrowing down and sort of really putting his focus on changing the mainstream centrist political forces in Europe, and announcing that the United States will do more to influence that kind of change. That is a wholesale break with American foreign policy of the last 80 years.
It is a reversion to a 19th century version of American foreign policy, before America learned the two hard lessons of the 20th century, that actually America retreating onto itself serves neither its own interests or the interests of global security more generally.
Briefly, if you can, does Europe need to be afraid?
I think Europe needs to recognise that it can't rely on America.
This document means that we've got in black and white, now from the US president himself, in writing, what members of this administration have been telling Europe for months now.
After the US national security strategy, when people are saying that this is a wake-up call for Europe, a wake-up call? The wake-up call was on the 14th of February, when G.D. Vance was exactly playing out what is now in the national security strategy. So this is not a wake-up call, though not the first time. We have been woken up. How many times do we need before Europe really wakes up? The US strategy is clear. It's the same like Putin's. It wants to divide Europe. It wants to weaken Europe. It is against our liberal democracies. We need to stand up and need to fight for a European sovereignty.
There are a lot of far-right groups in Europe that are going to be very heartened by this.
The far-right Alternative for Germany party has long sought to cozy up to Donald Trump's MAGA movement in the U.S. Those efforts were once again on display this weekend at a black tie gala in New York, hosted by the Young Republican Club. It's a key date for MAGA-aligned Republicans and international far-right figures for whom the Trump administration has been signaling growing support.
Germany might be about to end Europe's immigration chaos for good. In the last week or so, I've reported that Sharia law is now valid in Austria. An American hero has been attacked defending women from migrants in Germany. A Swiss politician was beaten by a mob from migrant background.
Did your hand cut as well? Was that, I thought you had lumps of flesh hanging off your head.
Yeah.
Why are people such cowards?
A Brit was petrol bombed while hanging the St George's Cross. And passengers fled a Milan airport terminal as a migrant smashed up a check-in desk before setting it alight. The consequences of open borders can be seen all over Europe, and the people of our continent are furious. The Alternative for Germany has overtaken the Conservatives to become #1 among Germans, just 100 days into the current Chancellor Merz's term. This is despite his promises of a spending splurge and a crackdown on immigration, indicating trust has totally broken down.
President Trump meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky and a stronghold of European leaders at the White House yesterday. It was historic. Politico reporting that at one point the president stops the conversation with the leaders and Zelensky, walks away for 40 minutes to call Putin.
Yeah, well, I think yesterday's meeting is hard to overstate the significance and the historic nature of what we witnessed.
It's a great honor to have you here. Special place. White House is special no matter where you're from. Represents so much, and it really is beautiful.
It was such a sense of unity, and we all enjoyed watching it because America is on top, and it was on your turf, on your terms.
Well, I think really they have respect for our country again. A year ago, they wouldn't have come. They wouldn't have even thought about it. Now, we've become the hottest country anywhere in the world. Everybody wants to be here. When I made the call, they came. And they said there's really never been anything like it. You know, you'd have one president or one prime minister, but there's never been, such a group. And these really represent the European nations, these people. Here's my approach to Europe. I want to see a strong Europe. I have no vision for Europe. All I want to see is a strong Europe.
Die Jahrzehnte der Pax Americana.
The decades of Pax Americana are largely over for us in Europe, and also for us in Germany. It no longer exists as we knew it.
Europe's era of independence must be unstoppable. And we have more work to do. This week's European Council is about facing the reality of the moment. The reality of a world that has become dangerous and transactional, a world of wars, a world of predators. The reality of this world means we Europeans must defend ourselves and we must depend on ourselves. Yesterday's peace is gone. We have no time to indulge in nostalgia. What matters is how we confront today. We cannot afford to let the world views of others define us. Europe must be responsible for its own security. This is no longer an option. This is a must.
Help our viewers understand why Germany is rearming. You mentioned it's not just the Russia-Ukraine war, but also the US pressuring them to spend more on defense.
The change in the administration and transfer of power here in Washington can't be overstated. Of course, there's the threat from Russia, but we've seen that really since the full-scale invasion in 2022 and going back further, the impetus for the rapid changes being made, the rapid modernization, and the kind of mind-boggling amount of spending on the military. Germany is rethinking its role in the world.
We are Russia's next target. I fear that too many are quietly complacent. Too many don't feel the urgency. And too many believe the time is on our side. It is not. The time for action is now.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier.
If you just think about, just in a few months, President Trump has shifted the entire global conversation from not if the war is going to end, but just how it's going to end. And only President Trump can do that. And in the Oval Office less than a week ago, both President Putin and President Zelensky both said to him, only you, President Trump, could drive this war to a conclusion.
We are out there curing and solving conflicts all over the world. It's unbelievable. No one's ever seen this sort of progress before.
Steve Witkoff is a very skilled and capable negotiator. He has the president's total trust, and he's 100% loyal to the president.
Steve's got a job to do. He's a great guy, great negotiator, great person. They respect him over there already. He's a great negotiator. That's what I needed. Great negotiators are very rare. Steve knew very little about the subject matter. Who does? But he learned it in about 2 hours.
We've made tremendous progress. It's nothing short of enormous.
Steve's a great deal maker, but I noticed one thing about him. He had the greatest personality. I have other guys that are great deal makers, but you have to go into World War III before the deal. We didn't want that. I said, everybody loves Steve. He's a great deal maker, but everybody loves him. And that's what turned out to be. People love Steve.
If there's anyone who is, has the hand of God on him, it seems to me, I sort of overstated, but I feel that way. It's Witkoff, who's like a thoroughly decent man and who was running around the world trying to bring peace.
And also, by the way,
nations
who single-handedly saved 20 Jewish hostages.
I think anything can be solved with dialogue.
I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Now, as we see with Vladimir Putin and Zelensky, there's only one man on the planet, and this is true, this is not hyperbole, one man on the planet who could bring them to the table and forge a lasting peace. And he's doing that right now. We're in the process of doing that. That is unique to Donald Trump.
It's a vicious war, and if I can help solve it, we're not losing our soldiers, but we're losing soldiers, a lot of people. And if I can solve it because of a certain ability, that would be great.
Iran's foreign ministry has described the first session of nuclear talks with U.S. officials as constructive.
We're having direct talks with Iran.
The U.S. and Iran are set to hold their third round of talks on Tehran's nuclear program this weekend.
Israel wants to see a deal that will dismantle Iran's nuclear program.
Beginning a 3-day trip to Lebanon, the Pope also challenged the country's political leaders to become true peacemakers.
Well, the whole topic of the entire visit is peace.
The Pope emphasized the need for peace, using the word more than 20 times in his address.
I think Lebanon could normalize with Israel, literally. Normalize meaning a peace treaty with the two countries. That's really possible. Syria, too. The indications are that Jelani is a different person than he once was, and people do change. I'm not the person I knew 30 years ago. So maybe Jelani in Syria is a different guy.
There are negotiations in Saudi Arabia between U.S. and Russian diplomats to end the war.
The U.S. president said that President Zelensky can end the war almost immediately.
People just want to be able to live with security and live freely. They want to be together. They want to have economic opportunity. They want their children to be able to live a better life. And they want to safely and freely practice whatever religion they choose to practice.
Peace is infectious now.
Peace on earth is not out of reach.
Leaders are now coming to the White House saying, how do we move a peace deal forward in Ukraine? And we're getting calls from the Iranians.
I mean, he has gone from being the deal maker in chief to being the peacemaker in chief.
It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well deserved, and you should get it.
President Trump and I have a doctrine. It's called peace through strength. Well, first comes the strength, then comes the peace.
I'll be the only president. I don't think any president stopped one war. I stopped 8 wars in 8 months. Did I get a Nobel Prize? No, I didn't. Can you believe it? Even I said, yeah, that's an impossible one.
You know, foreign policy-wise, I don't think there's been a president in a generation who's even come close. I've never seen a president who's accomplished so much, who's achieved so much peace.
My father is a guy that can get things done. He's perhaps the only one that could get some of these people to a table, effectuate real peace.
We've never had and been so close to truly everlasting peace in the Middle East. All my life I've heard, oh, peace in the Middle East, but it'll never happen. We did it. What's taking place in the Middle East is a miracle. They're just calling it a miracle, and we're going to make it a miracle, and we're very close to doing that. There's tremendous unity now in the Middle East. We have legitimate peace in the Middle East, and we just settled another war today. You saw that with Rwanda and the Congo. I've restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed the Iran nuclear threat, and ended the war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East.
Money's Trump's favorite word, but the P word's clocking in at a close second. Peace.
You know perfectly well that the day of the Lord comes like a thief in the night, when all's well and all safe are on the lips of men. Then all of a sudden destruction is upon them, like pangs on a pregnant woman. Escape there is none. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For the day of the Lord cometh, and it is nigh at hand. The great day of the Lord is near, it is near, and hasteth greatly, even the voice of the day of the Lord. The mighty man shall cry there bitterly. That day is a day of wrath. It's the wrath of Almighty God against the sins and the sinners of this world. Oh, our Father in heaven, we thank you that you've warned us in advance of these things to come. We thank you, Father, that we know and that you have not appointed us to wrath, if we'll only turn to you and repent of our sins here and now, and turn to you through Jesus Christ our Lord. We thank you, Father, that you have protection in store for us. Help us all to heed the warning while there is yet time, and to turn to you, we ask in Jesus' name.